Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open the playbook of Wang Huiwen. Now, if you don't know the name, he was a key executive behind the Chinese tech giant Meituan. We're going to dive into his strategies to figure out what really separates a winning product from, well, all the others that just fade away. All right, let's just jump right in with a number that Wang Huiwen himself starts with, and it's kind of brutal. 1 to 30. Think about that. For every one successful product that actually makes it big, he figures at least 30 others have failed. 30! So why that crazy ratio? Well, it's not just a string of bad luck. According to Wang, it's because most entrepreneurs, they just completely misread the fundamental laws of business right from day one. They're focused on all the wrong things.
And he points out something really interesting, a pattern you see over and over again. The big winners, the iPhone, Google, WeChat, they were almost never the first ones in their field. And that tells you something huge. Just having the newest, shiniest technology, that is not the thing that guarantees a win.
Okay, so if it's not about being the first one out of the gate, then what is it? What's the one thing that can decide like 90% of your business's future before you even write one line of code? Well, Wang says it all boils down to strategy. And look, a lot of things matter, right? Your timing, your team, the tech, of course. But Wang argues that one of these factors stands head and shoulders above everything else. If you get this one thing right, it changes the entire game.
And what is that factor? It's the total addressable market, or you'll hear it called TAM. Basically, it's the total potential size of the sandbox you're about to play in. And getting this wrong, he says it's the single most common and most fatal mistake any new business can make. And this quote, oh man, it's a perfect example of how even the smartest people on the planet can get it catastrophically wrong. I mean, this was the president of IBM. It just goes to show you how incredibly easy it is to completely underestimate a brand new opportunity. Wang actually saw this exact thing happen in his own industry. His early competitors in the food delivery space, they looked over at the US market. They saw a company like Grubhub and thought, it's a small, kind of slow, boring business. And because they misjudged the market size, they put a ceiling on their own investment and their own ambition. It left the door wide open for someone else who saw how huge it could really be. Okay, so you found a massive market. Great! But that's just step one. The next piece of the puzzle, according to Wang, is to understand the invisible physics that actually govern that market. And he uses this really powerful metaphor to explain it. He calls the scale effect the universal gravitation of the business world. Just think about it like physics. The biggest object, the largest mass, just naturally pulls everything else toward it. It creates this incredibly powerful self-reinforcing advantage. Now, it's really important to draw a line between this and something called the Matthew effect. That's more about perception, right? The rich get richer just because everyone thinks they're the winners. The scale effect is different. It's a real, tangible advantage. As you get bigger, your costs literally go down, or the experience for your customer genuinely gets better. But here is the absolutely critical insight. Not all scale effects are the same. Not even close. Their scope completely changes the game. Think about Facebook, right? A new user, anywhere on the planet, makes the network better for everybody. That's global scale. But what about food delivery? Winning one city block gives you absolutely zero advantage on the next block over. He calls this a hive model. It's a ground war fought street by street, restaurant by restaurant. So for those businesses with global or national network effects, like social media, the whole game is a race to something called critical mass. That's the tipping point. It's where the value of the whole thing just explodes, growing exponentially with every single new person who joins. And whoever gets there first builds a lead that is almost impossible to overcome. All right, so you've figured out your market is huge. You understand the kind of scale effect you're up against. Now what? The big question is, how would you actually make your first move? Where do you even start? Well, the goal, and this is so important, is not to build a product for everyone all at once. The first crucial step is to find what's called product market fit, or PMF. And that means you have to pick a super sharp, really specific entry point. You're looking for that perfect match between your product and the needs of a small but really passionate group of initial users. And how do you find that perfect entry point? Wang goes back to a classic framework, STP. It's simple. First, you segment the entire market into different groups. Then, you target just one of those groups,
the one you know you can win. And finally, you position your product so that its message, its story connects perfectly with them.
You want a masterclass in this? Look at Amazon. I mean, their big vision was always the everything store, right? But they didn't start there. They brilliantly chose books as their perfect entry wedge. Why books? Well, think about it. They're standardized, they're hard to break in the mail, and most importantly, they were the perfect product for the early internet users who tended to be more educated. It was just the ideal first move.
You can think of this whole process like a relay race, passing the baton from one user group to the next. At first, personal websites were for the super nerdy innovators. Then blogs came along and passed the baton to early adopters, making it way easier to publish stuff. And finally, social networks like Facebook took that baton and made self-expression on the internet easy enough for the huge early majority. Each step built on the last.
So when you put it all together, TAM, scale effects, STP, you start to see that these aren't just, abstract theories from a business school textbook. They all combine to create a really powerful way of thinking about how you build a business from the ground up.
And this all leads to what might be Wang's most important point of all. He has this saying that a product manager is basically in preschool for CEOs. Because thinking like a great product manager isn't really about the product features. It's training you to think like a CEO. It forces you to look at the whole picture, the market, the strategy, the customer, not just the next item on your feature list.
And if you really want to get this mindset deep in your bones, he recommends these books. And they're not just theory. These are essential reads that take you right into the trenches, from the absolute chaos of building PayPal to the incredible, disciplined retail philosophy of 7-Eleven. This is how great companies are actually built.
So that's our deep dive into Wang Huiwen's playbook. We're going to leave you with one last question to chew on. If you were starting a new product today from scratch, which of these unseen forces, the sheer size of the market, the type of scale effect, or that one perfect user segment, which one would you focus on first?